Welcome on board the news track. I'm Rahul Kamal. On the show tonight, the big India Today drone warfare roundtable. It's a crucial, sharp, incisive conversation that's key to our national security, and it's my top focus on the news track.
Seven drone threats in 4 days. India fights terror from the skies. How can India hit back? India ready to counter high-tech terror? Decoding the drone nightmare. India Today's special roundtable at 8 p.m. on News Track.
7 drone threats in the last 4 days. After the Jammu drone strike, India is facing its worst new security nightmare. In an exclusive conversation with India Today's Gaurav Sawant, the Army Chief spoke on countering the new threat posed by weaponized drones. The Army Chief says India is ready and that drone warfare will change military strategy for the future.
The Indian Army is developing capabilities to deal with the threat posed by weaponized drones used both by state and non-state actors, General Manoj Mukund Narvane, Chief of the Army Staff, said on Thursday.
We are catering for both the offensive and use of drones, as also focusing on the defensive measures or the counter-drone systems or measures that we need to adopt to prevent any attacks on our critical facilities.
Speaking exclusively to India Today, after the Jammu drone strike, the Army Chief said drones will increasingly be used both by state and non-state actors and will be factored in all future planning.
Character of warfare has been changing continuously, and the advent of drones and counter-drone systems has radically altered the way we think and how we will be having to fight in the future.
The Army has developed a number of additional counter-drone systems at sensitive locations, offices and vital points in Jammu and Kashmir, and is training troops in counter-drone measures that are being enhanced.
All our troops on ground have been sensitized to this evolving threat, and we are developing capabilities to deal with that, whether by state-sponsored or by states themselves. We are developing the capabilities to deal with them, with this drone threat.
The easy availability of drones has increased the challenge for the security forces.
The easy availability of drones, and in fact, you can even make it at home as a do-it-yourself project, definitely increases the complexity and the challenges that we have to deal with. We are seized of this problem, and we have put in place certain measures.
The Army Chief assured people that the forces will not be found wanting in dealing with the threat posed by weaponized drones. In Delhi, Gaurav Sawant for India Today.
On this India Today drone warfare roundtable, my first question is, how prepared is India to tackle this drone threat? How vulnerable are our civilian and military installations? Are we in some senses a sitting duck? Joining me on this broadcast, I want to welcome first Anshuman Tripathi. Anshuman Tripathi is a member of the National Security Advisory Board, works very closely with the government, trying to shape our larger national defense architecture. He's also an expert on drone technology. We have Group Captain R.K. Narang. He's at the Center for Air Power Studies, a leading think tank, focuses on how warfare is changing in the context of drones. We have Naveen Navlani. He's at IdeaForge. This is one of India's largest drone manufacturing startups. They've worked with different companies, helped create drone projects in India and internationally. We've got Smit Shah. Smit Shah is the director of the Drone Federation of India. He's helping shape India's drone policy. We've got Group Captain Augustine. He's a leading expert on drone warfare. So thank you and welcome to all our guests. It's good to have genuine domain experts who understand the specifics and minutiae of drone warfare, which is now a threat that literally stares us in the face and is around us in the skies. Anshuman Tripathi, the first question to you. As somebody who's been within the government shaping our drone defense policies, as it were, how prepared, according to you, is India at this moment to deal with the drone threat?
Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for having me. Just to clarify, I'll be just giving my views. I was part of the organization, which is a think tank. So these are my personal views and don't reflect the government. We are very well prepared as far as the technologies go right now. As you know, the drones themselves are a technology which are evolving. So are the anti-drone technologies. Both sides are actually duking it out right now. And at every step...
No, can I just pause you for a moment and ask you, sir, you say we are well prepared. At the Jammu Air Force Station, at the Kaliachak police station, wherever drones have been spotted, we weren't really well prepared. They were able to take a drone into a high-value military installation, drop an explosive payload, pull that drone out, take it away. So when you say you're well prepared at this moment, I'm not certain why and how you say that.
Well, it depends if you look at it. As I said, this is an evolving technology. Both sides, the drone as well as the anti-drone technology, we are both evolving. So we are looking at both sides of the situation. And that is why we've not had a major damage, as you would say. And I would say that we are working hard to prevent these from happening in the future as well.
No, you're saying we haven't had major damages. Could that be because at this moment, whether it's terrorists or the handlers in Pakistan, haven't tried an attack big enough? Or do you think drone attacks are being tried and they haven't succeeded? Because in this instance, while the area of landing may have been off target and didn't hit the helicopter, the drone was able at Jammu to enter our airbase and exit. So, you know, if it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen, given what's happened in Saudi Arabia, given what happened between Armenia and Azerbaijan. You know, it seems to me at this moment that we are very vulnerable. Do you agree or disagree?
I'd unfortunately disagree on that. My personal view is both technologies are evolving. Even the anti-drone technologies are evolving. What we had last year is not what we have today. What we will have today, we'll have something better.
No, but is the anti-drone technology deployed at the right places? Because if it were, and I come back again to Jammu, it was a fortuitous escape. But the fact is that our anti-drone technology didn't swing into action at the right time. Our radars didn't pick up those drones and we weren't able to take it down, sir.
Well, as I said, I'm just talking about my personal viewpoints here. I would prefer the government respond to those answers for you. And I'm sure the authorities are working hard towards giving you the answers.
Naveen Navlani, you've worked with the government. You've seen from the inside our level of preparation. What's your view on my question about how vulnerable we are, how prepared are we to take on the drone next time if with a heavier payload, or even if it's with the same payload, a drone enters, whether it's the Jammu Air Base or some other installation, and it's able to drop the payload on the target, which could be, for example, a helicopter. Do you think we have adequate preparations in place to be able to take down the drone before it does damage?
So Rahul, to answer that question, so let me tell you something a little bit about electronics warfare. I have been handling those projects while I was with the army or otherwise also. So this particular field is like a cat and mouse game. You make a technology, somebody makes a counter for that. You make drones, somebody makes counter drones. Somebody makes counter drones, you improve your drones even further, and so on and so forth. So to say that your security will always 100% times be foolproof, it's a tall ask. Secondly, as rightly brought out by Mr. Anshuman also, it's an evolving technology. See, this whole technology ecosystem of micro mini drones, I'm not talking about the bigger ones, the Hales and the Mail class. It is what, 12 years old, 13 years old. And in 13 years, so much of development has happened. and the counter for that would also be at least 2 steps behind that. And it's a constant game.
No,
So
but
coming to
that's a
the-
generic response to a specific question. While, of course, some pockets of the Indian establishment may have the capability to take down drones in a hypothetical scenario, are we actively deployed in the ground to be able to deal with a threat in the skies when it's above us? None of the drones came down in Kaliachak. They didn't really come down at the Jammu Air Base. The drones went back. So that raises questions about our current preparedness when it comes to taking on these small drones, sir.
So see, today I'm from the industry side. I may be privy to some projects which would have, which have been implemented for the anti-drone, but that's a information which let it remain where it is. So the point that I'm going to trying to bring out over here, India is investing. Our armed forces, defense establishments are investing into this technology. The technology world over has not stabilized. Even in US or in any European solution you take, it always gives you a probability of detection and protection. It is never 100% protection. So to answer the question straight head on, yes, we are investing. That is the Indian government. Whether it is enough, there is nothing which is actually enough. India is a vast country. And we are not talking only about the threat at the border or say Jammu air base, which was around 14 kilometers from the border. We are also talking about the threat which is in the hinterland. Your oil and gas assets, your nuclear assets, VVIP areas, Delhi, airports. How do you handle? You can't effectively put a anti-drone system there. Let me give you an example. Israel has one of the best anti-missile system called Iron Dome. Still, some of the missiles from Hamas still do manage to land in the Israeli territory. So that means no solution is foolproof. That's what I'm trying to say. And we are investing. It's an emerging field. Yes. Whether the government needs to do more? Yes, of course.
No, but I'm not even, at this moment, I'm not even evaluating it from the perspective of whether we have a foolproof mechanism. Group Captain Augustine, I'm just asking a straight question about whether we have the basics in place. My understanding is that the Garud Special Forces commandos have anti-drone technology, some of whom were present at the Jammu Air Base at that time. None of those mechanisms kicked into effect when the drones came in and went out. So when we say hypothetically the technology exists for us to be able to secure certain areas, and I'm sure certain areas are, but when it comes to so many high-value installations as there are in different parts of the country, not just military installations but also commercial institutions. For example, it was a oil refinery in Saudi Arabia run by Aramco which got attacked. How capable are we at this moment to protect those installations, or are we sitting ducks in some senses? Group Captain.
Good question. Hi, thank you for this question. Okay, let me give this example by taking an example from a real life technology. The real life technology I want to quote here is its stealth technology. Now, why do we need a stealth technology? So that you can evade radar. How do we evade radar? By reducing the radar cross-section of a flying object so small that it cannot be picked up by even the best of the radar. So that is what the stealth technology is hinging about. So that a big aeroplane looks very, very small, but you cannot really make its radar cross-section zero. But here, you have an equipment, like if you remember, FA-18 dropped a swarm of drone called Perdix. The Perdix is 6.5 inches. It is as big as this. And it was made out of metal. Even then, those Perdix didn't come into didn't come in radar contact at all. Has the technology caught up to pick up these small drones? I do not think so. I'm being very honest and straightforward to tell you this. I do not think that radar has moved to that level where we can pick it up.
No, sir.
Now,
No, sir, can I pause you just for a moment? You're talking about a really sophisticated high-end drone created by the military. I'm asking about a commercial drone sold in the market which is re-engineered for the purpose of dropping a payload. It could be a crude payload, it could be a sophisticated payload. If something like that were to happen at a military or commercial installation, do you think at this moment we have the capability to take it down?
No. The simple answer is no. I'll tell you why. Because first of all, not only the size of the drone, Gaurav, matters, it is also the material with which it is made matters. Now, if it is completely made out of polymer or plastic and very few metal particles is there, radar won't be able to pick it up. You will have to use something like a sound to pick it up or triangulate the electronic energy that is going to back and forth the drone and the controller. If it is silent, even that is out of the window. Now, if you're picking up with the sound, and if the ambient sound is less, you can, in fact, out of all the three technology, sound is more promising than radar. Can you believe this? If with sound, you can pick up maybe 5-6 kilometers. But again, it depends on environment, ambient, etc. Now, how do we take it down? To take it down, you have to pinpointedly hit it. If it is even 2 kilometers away, simple mathematics will tell you you cannot pinpointedly hit it. Then how do we hit it? Send a barrage of bullets. Now, barrage of bullets can be sent by something like a phalanx gun, a close-in weapon system which sends a hail of bullets, which is coming in not only for the drones, it is coming for even incoming cruise missiles like the CJ-10 missiles that is going to come from China, or even any other cruise missiles.
No, but can I ask you a basic question, sir?
Yes.
So you let loose a barrage of bullets in the hope that you will take the drone down, which if it were to be done in the kind of terrain which is visible in that representative video that's playing on your screen is okay because it's a barren area and it lands. But a lot of these air bases, for example, are close to commercial real estate, residential real estate, in many cases juggi jhopadis, illegal real estate, and there'll be people staying there. So now imagine you got a drone coming into the Jammu air base, you let loose the Garud commandos over there, they let loose a barrage of bullets. Where do those bullets land? And they can potentially cause damage, can't they?
Absolutely. So you will have no fire zone. So if they come in from the no fire zone, then probably even some close-in system like not a barrage of bullets but a pinpoint shooting down is what is the solution. And let me tell you, Gaurav, beating around the bush is not something which I do. But current technology and the size of drone that we are looking at, it is very difficult to pick them up and prosecute them. You can pick it up, yes, but how will you prosecute them? And like you asked in some of the previous shows, and how many defenses will you put it up? So the real defense, Gaurav, and you hinted at it also earlier, is to make the cost of war for the enemy very high. Then only he will stop such
I'll come to that.
Happening.
What should be done? I'll come to that in a moment. I want to go across to Group Captain Narang. Before that, at the Center for Air Power Studies, Group Captain Augustine being frank enough to say that no, we're not prepared. We could potentially be sitting ducks, and that there are way too many complications in being able to set up effective anti-drone covering systems, and even where they've been tried in places like Israel that spent a lot of money in a far smaller geography than India, they still haven't succeeded. What's your view, Group Captain Narang?
Rahul, what my study indicates that there are different systems are being developed for detection, and then becomes an issue of tracking and neutralization. So some aspects are still a challenge, but there has been progress in developing a soft kill options of the drones. And saying that there is no progress may not be a fair idea.
No, sir, I want to hold you over there because that's as far as technology demonstration is concerned. So my point to you is that yes, technology may exist at this moment. Has it been purchased? Has it been deployed in key commercial and military installations, where if next week something like that were to happen in, say, an oil refinery, God forbid, or in a place where a VVIP lives, or in a military installation, do we have the technology on the ground to take it down? I'm not asking about whether the technology exists per se, I'm asking about whether it's been deployed effectively, sir.
See, if I take it otherwise, 2018 onwards, some trials were initiated by Ministry of Civil Aviation, and we are 3 years down the line. So I would say some technologies are there which can be deployed in a very, very short time.
But you don't know
And
where the... One second, sir. That is true if you know where the enemy is. Let's assume that a plane has been hijacked and you know now it's at the Amritsar tarmac. You can send someone from Delhi in a plane. You can send NSG commandos and try and circle that, which we couldn't do in Kandahar, but now potentially you can. But you can't do that in the case of a drone, because where it takes off from and where it comes. Imagine this scenario, and I want to paint this for our viewers. You're sitting inside a juggi in Jammu, close to the airport, an illegal juggi, and you've set up, like you would do in a movie, a command and control center over there. You can actually, sitting there, pilot this into the airbase and out, while you may have capabilities residing in Delhi, which at that moment are not deployed and are of no use. By then the payload has been dropped, the damage has been done, Group Captain.
Rahul, allow me to say a quote example of Russia. Russia was in a war zone in Syria, and they were attacked, their naval and air base were attacked by 13 drones. And remember, they fired missiles, they fired guns, and they tried jamming. Lastly, what was most effective was on-ground operations and the intelligence. Since then, the technology has progressed. If we prioritize, and I mark my words, we can, achieve some sort of initial deployment in a short period. The prioritization you have to leave it to the security agencies. But I agree with Groupie Augustine that if the way he's quoted some of the examples, they are a challenge. But I would also not rule out that if we take a call, this is the time to give support to your industry. They can scale up. Now, these small startups who are involved in these things, they need help of the bigger players to scale up at a shorter time frame. So I feel there is a time for us to take a call to deploy some of the systems rather than wait for the perfect system which we are looking for.
Smit Shah, you're at the Drone Federation of India. Can you tell us about some of the effort that is being made at this moment to try and ensure that we have some of these technologies available domestically for purchase by the armed forces if that's required?
Sure. I'll first take a step back and talk about the threat. So, very wonderful question that you asked about whether we are ready or not. We need to understand that this threat has two parts to it. Drone is just the carrier. So, because the explosive is being carried on the drone, while it's fair enough to address the drone, but it is also not fair enough to just address the drone, because we have since years, a vast network of intelligence which also keeps track of explosives and people. So what we need to understand is that there is a dimension of the substance that was put on the drone as well, which needs to be looked at. And if we start looking at that much more aggressively, the possibility reduces, and then focus of the counter drone technology at critical assets versus little less critical assets, or the next class of assets will help us deploy iteratively.
Okay. I want to come to the question next about what should be done to try and deal with this threat. So we've established largely that at this moment, frankly, and I know that some of our guests have been guarded in their response and some have been quite frank, India isn't prepared. There are way too many vulnerable targets, but it's a bit like the car bomb, for example, or the Fidaiin, when the threat first emerged. Now, who loads a car with IEDs and takes it into the Bombay Stock Exchange or any other place? You don't know. And therefore, against a threat of this nature, you can never be fully prepared. And the same is the case with the Fidaiin with a vest on. If he has a vest with explosives on, he can walk in somewhere. So it's a threat that's now emerged in the public domain. It's been known about in strategic circles and in government circles for a long time. What should we be doing to try and deal with it? Before I come to part two, I want to show you this report on the drone marketplace. Different kinds of drones, starting from basic drones which can be picked off the shelf to far more sophisticated military drones that can fly for hours and drop heavy payloads with great precision while the operator is actually sitting far away.
India is ready with its counter-drone strategy. Defense Research and Development Organization's anti-drone system has been designed to take down rogue drones. The system can detect objects within a range of 3 kilometers and destroy it with a laser beam.
This system is a multi-sensor system. that we had been working on for the last 3 years, anticipating such threats in future. And it primarily has a radar which is used to detect the drone's presence, and then there is a provision to do a soft kill, we call it, and also a hard kill. Depending on the requirement, we can exercise any of these two.
A new technique can bring down a drone through jamming command. And this new anti-drone system that was first deployed during the 2020 Independence Day celebrations in the capital will be available to the forces within 3 months.
We can actually enhance the production capabilities, and we are multiple industries we are engaging, including Bharat Electronics, who is our production agency, nominated today. So depending on the requirement, we can roll out anywhere from 6 months, we can actually enhance the production capabilities.
The big challenge, however, is that mini drones are available across markets in India. Surveillance drones are often used by police and security forces to monitor an area. The drones are fitted with a camera and can fly up to the height of 400 feet. Another small category drone is an agri drone, which can carry up to 25 kilograms of payload and is often used to spray fertilizers or pesticides across farms. Survey boat drones have a range of up to 35 kilometers and can be used to drop heavier payloads. However, it is the Chinese drones that fly low that are the real threat. Without human control, these drones are time controlled and can be programmed to drop explosives and return back. Because they fly low, they escape the radars too.
ड्रोन्स को लेकर जिस तरह से डीजीसीए की गाइडलाइन है, लेकिन यहाँ पर जो लोग ड्रोन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग का काम करते हैं, इस वक्त हम जो आपको दिखा रहे हैं, उनका ये कहना है कि ड्रोन्स के ऑपरेशन को लेकर डीजीसीए की तमाम तरह की गाइडलाइन है, उसके लिए एक निश्चित एरिया होता है, एक निश्चित समय सीमा होती है, लेकिन जो चाइनीज़ ड्रोन है या जो ब्लैक मार्केट में इस तरह के ड्रोन उपलब्ध हैं, उनका आसानी से इस्तेमाल किया जा सकता है, जिस तरह की घटना जम्मू में हुई है। कैमरामैन अशोक भनोट के साथ मंजित नेगी, गुरुग्राम, आज तक।
So now in part B of this drone warfare roundtable, I want to focus on the question of what should be done at this moment to try and reduce the threat to the extent possible. We've established that there are several high-value installations that are vulnerable. We have some capabilities not fully deployed, but we are building up our capacity, but the enemy is ready, and he's demonstrated his capability in Jammu and Kaliachak and elsewhere. What should we do at this moment? I'll start this time with Group Captain Augustine. On resources are limited. We're in the middle of a pandemic. The economy is already badly ravaged. There's China on the LAC. We need to buy light infantry tanks. We need artillery guns which can be taken up into the mountains. We're trying to integrate our armed forces. So there are multiple requirements when it comes to capital expenditure for the military, and now there is this very pressing requirement to bolster our drone defenses. How should we address this challenge? What should we do? Group Captain Augustine.
Thank you, Rahul, and sorry I'm blind as a bat here. But coming to the answer to this question, I want to simplify it so that our viewers understand this much better. Look at it like a boxing bout. A boxer needs to have his punches as solid as his defense. So the offense-defense balance has to be has to be thought about on two counts. First and foremost is areas where we cannot afford anyone to go through. That is high-value target, including a mobile high-value target like a VVIP movement or an HNI. There we need to have our defenses, which should be layered. That means you should have one outside, at least one inside, through which, that is the final layer of defense, and outside that should be your offense. Now, this offense-defense balance is something Indian Air Force understands it much, much better, because they are looking at thousands of kilometers of defense. They are not like very short-focused as far as defense is concerned. Now, second, and the most important thing is that the source of this problem we know is Pakistan. Now, what do they understand loud and clear? They understand the surgical strike loud and clear, air strike loud and clear. Now, you also saw there was lasting peace on the border. Why? Because the reply was befitting and more. So if we don't, now we have established that it is not possible to, catch these kinds of drones, which in swarm can be as lethal, if not much more lethal than any other. So now that we have established that, how do we counter it is a question. The first and foremost is, like Captain Narang covered, have your informants and information network in place. That is the most important thing, Rahul, if I tell you. If what happened in Jammu, I would also play it as some kind of an intelligence failure. I mean, he could not have taken you by surprise, in the middle of the night, without he leaving some telltale information behind.
No, how? Let's war game this for a moment. I've taken up temporary establishment in one of the Juggi clusters. Now I have a house. I've smuggled my drone in a suitcase. You can't really tell. I'm sitting inside the house. I've set up a sophisticated screen which allows me to look outside without having to go outside. And I've moved the drone in. I've dropped my payload and I brought it out. Where is the intelligence failure in this?
No, I'm not saying failure. No, I'm saying to pick up the telltale mark of intelligence. I'll tell you how. See, I've said this before. 95% of the drone, Rahul, is controlled by a radio control system in an ISM band. As simple as that. If we know that a 2.4 or a 5.8 gigahertz transmission is moving about, we know for sure that just by measuring the rate of change of movement, we will know that it is something which is mobile, which is agile, and which is moving very fast. That is as far as
but that threat is more potent if the drone's taken off from close to the airbase. If it's coming from far, so you have some reflex and response time. If it's just taken off from a few hundred meters away from the airbase, you hardly have any time to pick something up, something which is so small.
No, that is where the beauty of the transmission distance vis-a-vis the height measures. To put it very simply, 1.25 under root of height of the transmitter plus 1.25 under root of receiver gives you the range. If I were to break it down for our viewers' understanding, at 100 meters of altitude, what is the radio range? 185 kilometers. That means the moment the drone takes off, attains an altitude of 30 meters, you will get to measure that signal at least 50 to 60 kilometers away. So that is the beauty of a transmitted energy's penetration above the earth. That is Bhugol. You can't do anything about it. Even enemy can't do anything about it. Even if he wants to go silent, Rahul, but he has to take off in a controlled environment with two-way talking. Okay. And then once he set course is the time that you will switch off, even if he is so
Group
sophisticated.
Captain Narang, given how enormous this threat is, how limited our resources are, how should we approach this security challenge?
Yeah, see, if you go to Aero India 2021, we witnessed enormous talent available in public sector. I would not say enormous, but there is significant talent available in the public sector and the private sector, but it is in silos. We need a mechanism to harness this energies, harness this talent into a finished product and a faster transformation of those prototypes and their deployment. And I'm aware that it is possible if some immediate measures are taken. Second part is we need to invest more on R&D. If I am aware of R&D initiatives of many countries where they are looking at technological solutions, and the way to do is allow more R&D in the public sector as well as in the private sector. Like in case of China, you can do number of R&D projects, and they flew last year about 1.4 million drone hours, and they have 3 lakh operators operating, and that is giving
How
them
many drone operators would we have? Not in the civilian sector, in the armed forces, like in the Air Force. how many trained drone operators would we have, you think?
They will be in barely thousands and less than tens of thousands. So the more technology proliferation and research and development, especially in the private sector, you give them an enabling environment and they can do wonders. The next part is more involvement and integration, because police is not tuned to this kind of threat, though they have been facing this off and on, but having a air defense orientation, they need to do more than what they are doing. And the fourth thing is the way the bomb threats India face. Now I think there is a time that police to establish a mechanism for people to become their eyes and ears, because whatever happens, the societies know who's an outsider. Invariably, these are the people, their suspicious movement can be transformed. So we need to look at some of these innovative measures.
Okay, Anshuman Tripathi, given the scope of the challenge, the limitations of our resources, how should we prioritize? I like the thought that Group Captain Augustine made, where he says that focus as much on offensive capabilities rather than having defensive mechanisms placed at multiple targets, because you simply don't know what the terrorist is thinking and where he wants to attack.
Rahul, I think in my personal opinion, once again, the solution is a multi-pronged approach. To just the point that Group Captain Narang just made, I'm sure the forces have a lot more people who are trained on drones. The ones he's specifically talking about are on the combat drones, which are larger in size and are the military grade. If we come down to smaller drones, then I'm not so sure we have only that many few people in the forces. Even all over the country, we have a lot of people who can understand drones, who play with drones, and we have a full...
No, but a civilian drone operator is not available to you for a military offensive or defensive purpose. The armed forces need to build their own capabilities, as is the case with cyber warfare, for example.
Exactly, and we are working on that portion. I'm sure the government has got positions in place for doing that. But as you asked me specifically, there's a multi-pronged approach that would be going on. And one of the points that we talked about, as Group Captain Augustine said, these smaller drones are not, cannot be seen. One point that all our panelists have missed out are eagles. If you see countries like the Netherlands and France, they have actually trained eagles to actually spot small drones, these small commercial grade micro drones. And they have been really effective in many places.
No, eagles meaning real eagles? Like the bird eagles?
Real eagles, absolutely.
But how effective are those eagles, and what if they're sleeping at that time, for example? Sorry, that's a silly question, but that could happen.
Well, so then we come back to the point, there's nothing is completely sure shot. We have probabilities, as we all talked about. But eagles have been trained, and just like for handling the problem with the monkeys, we brought in a langur. We can actually have these trained eagles who can do a lot better job, because they are up
Group
in
Captain Augustine is shaking his head. He doesn't think that banking on eagles is a very smart thing to do. Surely there has to be a better way to take on the terrorists than to bank on an eagle being awake at that time to spot the drone that's coming in. Group Captain Augustine.
So, 3 quick points, if you permit me, Rahul, is anti-drone or anything to counter any threat. Yes, because the drone threat has now really started becoming bigger and bigger, you have to have 3 solid pillars. First pillar is policy. Second pillar is organization. And third pillar is technology. We are only talking about technology. No, a technology with the wrong policy or a bad organization can end up like what Bekawali. You know, they had a highly mobile SAM. They put it in a pillbox and got hit by Israelis. So that is because wrong policies. So policy, technology, and organization, all 3 have to grow together, so that what happens that, let me take it a little further. Policy will dictate at some point that, see, we are woefully short on technology. Now is the time to up the ante, maybe go a little more offensive. Now the technology is here, okay, let's come down on a little more offensive. Now, who takes that decision? The organizational structure takes that decision.
Okay, so I want to go across now to Navlani on your thoughts on what we should do to try and counter the drone threat. Where should we start? What should we do right now?
So I think most of the questions, most of the methods have already been discussed, but I want to take, and that's a very important point. So I had written down a couple of points about technology, about human intelligence, other intelligence, the manufacturers, the ecosystem, and what Augustine just pointed out was on the regulations. So let's try to understand, where are these illegal drones coming into India? One is at the border, and if we take our view away from the border in the hinterland, they are getting illegally imported into India. A lot of regulations have been made. Ministry of Civil Aviation has been very proactive. We just have had in 2021 the rules for drone rules which have come out, but still there are a lot of loopholes at our ports of import. Illegal drones and components are still coming. See, a manufacturer like us, who are in the legal field, we have to take an equipment type approval with DGFT, from DGCA, multiple organizations. Smith would know that. What happens to these non-state players within India? You can get a drone today for as low as 70,000 rupees. Just go to a grey market, you can pick up a drone, you can pick up components. So let's try to nip this problem at the bud. Where regulations have been put in place, somebody
so
also commented upon police.
You're saying stop the sale of commercial drones as a start?
I'm not saying stop the sale. I'm saying stop the sale and illegal import of illegal drones. Any drone which is made by an Indian manufacturer today, the established manufacturer, whether a startup or a big company, has to be registered. There is a framework for that.
Smith Shah, your thoughts, where should we start?
My thoughts are pretty simple. I believe any kind of policy or any other initiative is still going to, reduce the possibility. But at the end of the day, there is going to be that, let's say with all the possibilities reduced, there is still going to be those 10 very important installations that require counter-drone technology. And if it still comes to that, we still require the counter-drone technology, for which I believe something very important should happen, which is we look at all the different exhibitions and technology demonstrations. We see a lot of companies have mastered one or the other technology that they showcase, either the detection or the identification or the countering mechanism.
Okay, so this is a very, very complex subject. It's also a subject where there's been a lot of thought globally. There's been thinking in India, but now we need to expedite the speed of action. That is crucial, so that we have some basic mechanisms in place and also serious offensive capabilities, because the enemy must know that if they drop drones on high value installations in India, there will be consequences of the kind that we saw in Balakot and then after the Uri attack. That is crucial, because without that, if there are no penal consequences, our enemies will be tempted to try their luck. Rather than trying to look up into the sky, count on an eagle who may or may not be awake, let the enemy know, you come for us, we will get you. I want to thank our guests for joining us and participating in this really sharp conversation, for your insightful thoughts. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll slip into a break. When we come back, 8 EU countries in Switzerland to allow those vaccinated with Covishield after India's diplomatic pressure. Details on the other side. Stay with us.